Hi, my name is Torres, and this is my video on the Humanities Community Project. Starting off with the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations. The Minoans came about the year 2500 BCE and were located in the island of Crete. They were skillful people whose power depended on their powerful navy. They reached a high point of social and artistic development around the 1400s BCE. They also constructed palace cities of bright colors. Their religion was centered on worship of the female deities, which in turn granted women of the Minoan civilization equality and freedom that was unusual for the ancient world. They were also skillful artisans who produced small objects, jewelry, and figurines that were really easy to trade. The Mycenaeans, on the other hand, were a warrior civilization that inhabited fortified palaces, cities on the Greek mainland. So not in an island, but where Athens or Sparta would be located. Excavations on the side revealed a civilization of fantastic wealth that was fascinated by death and the afterlife. After unearthing Mycenae, archaeologists found graves of Mycenaean royalty. Now, let's describe Sappho. Sappho lived on the Aegean island of Lesbos around 600 BCE and was the leader of a circle of women devoted to music and poetry. Sappho is considered as the most admired lyric poet of the ancient world, and many of her poems most preserved only as fragments. Now for the two vase colors that were used, there was the red figure where the background of a scene was entirely black and the figures were left unpainted, appearing as red. Then there was the black figure, which was just the opposite. Naturalism is a style that is any style that seeks fidelity to nature. Now, the Acropolis was started being rebuilt in the year 477 BCE. After it was buried by Persian attackers. It began with the Parthenon, which was a temple dedicated to Athena. And it was one of the largest temples built in Greece during that period. Now, I will describe the classical architectural orders. These orders were the three ways Greek builders built their columns or pillars, like the top of them. So these three were Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian, each one being different. Each one varied in design and purpose. Now, the Pantheon was the most advanced example of a Doric order. The construction was had subtle deviations from regularity. The columns bulged slightly as they strained under the weight of the roof, and they also leaned inward slightly. The floor also rised in the center on all four sides. The propylaeon was a massive gateway that the Athenians built. And it was notable for its combination of Doric and Ionic orders. The Erictium, I don't know how to pronounce that, was an Ionic temple that encompassed several sacred sites. It was built on 2 levels and had 2 porches, one in the Ionic cell with a continuous frieze, and the other with columns in the shape of maidens, called Corinthians. I think that's how you say it. Now, for classical sculptures and their features, there was the pediment, which was a triangular space formed by the roof's gable. There's also the frieze, which is a continuous band relief sculpture. And there were the metopes, were square slabs. Now, the Greek theater had 2 main forms, tragedy and comedy. Tragedy was a drama involving mythic characters whose pride led them into suffering and death. That's why they're called tragedies, because nothing else happens but tragedy. Now, comedies, on the other hand, were dramatic forms that portrayed everyday themes and characters in a humorous way. Comic plots were usually fantastic and included slapstick shenanigans. That's it. Now, for the 3 philosophers, classical Greek philosophers, first we had Socrates, who was an Athenian philosopher who founded philosophy in classical Greek without even writing a single word. He used his own method of philosophy based on the question and answer, in which the careful definition of terms, love, justice, the good, produced insight into the truth. He believed that absolute truths could be known and taught, but he denied that he himself possessed the correct knowledge. So he wasn't the one with everything right, but we should learn the truth. Then after him came his student, Plato, who talked about tension between change and permanence. In his famous theory of forms, Plato drew a line across creation, dividing all things known through sense and experience, from things known through rational contemplation. He said that if humans set aside material things and apply their reason and intelligence, they could glimpse a perfect world of being. So, if you don't let material things rule your life, everything should be perfect. Then after Plato came his student, Aristotle, who was, like I said, student of Plato. He formed an encyclopedia of Greek knowledge about the world, including treatises in science, ethics, logic, politics, and literature, among other disciplines. At his school in Athens, he assembled a library of maps and manuscripts and a museum of natural specimens. He also briefly taught a young man from Macedonia by the name of Alexander. Maybe you heard him, maybe you haven't. Alexander the Great, not a big guy. Now, finally, the Hellenistic age was a civilization that was composed of Greek and Near Eastern elements that differed substantially from its classical predecessor, particularly politically. City-states lost their self-sufficientness that they used to have. But at the same time, standard of living rose and women gained wider respect and legal standing. So we might have lost some things, but we gained others. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.